All right, Rod, we're going to get this thing rolling. Harvey County Digital, episode 23, rolling in 3, 2, 1. Good morning, Rod. How you doing?
I'm doing great. How about you, Andy?
Man, I'm doing better than I deserve, dude. It's great to have you here.
Yeah.
Been looking for you for about a year.
Yeah.
And I know we do things and we cross paths, but to actually do this together is a big deal for me. So thank you. I understand how valuable your time is. And before we get going, I'm going to talk a lot at the beginning, but I want to paint a picture for our audience on who we have, one of our local community members, one of our leaders that we have here. But before that, I wanted to shout out to our sponsors. So I just want to say a real quick thank you to Kane Painting for sponsoring us today. Thank you for continuing to promote leadership and allowing me to spend the time to do what I do here with people like Rod. And thank you to Faith and Life Bookstore for all you do. You know, those models people said are gone and dead. But I tell you what, there's nothing like getting a handwritten card that someone took the time to bring to you and actually wrote on it with ink. That, few minutes can really change somebody's day, somebody's week. And honestly, you can plant a seed for somebody's life if you just take that little bit of time to do that. And I enjoy doing that about once a week. I find a champion that's done something special around me, and I could do 10 of them. But I try to get a card and write something to somebody that's impacted me. And so guys, right down there on Main Street, Faith and Life Bookstore, really appreciate them and everything they do. So I want to get into this, and I'm going to read off a little bit about who you are and what you do and what I've noticed in the Midwest as I've lived here for 21 years in my adult life. And I was a wild dog that came in here, and I've been loved on by many different people. But there's a very humble spirit in the Midwest, and especially in areas like this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's the Mennonite background or what that is. And you'll have people that joke about this left and right around our area that understand what that means. But it's really a special place to me. And I get to see champions that are just humble and quiet, that do amazing things. And I get to be a part of that, right? And I am not that. I'm a pretty loud, boisterous person. But I try really hard to learn from those people that I admire, that aren't driving the Ferraris, that could do all that and then some, but they really put their time and their energy into things that matter. And I see a lot of that. And so you're one of those people, that I see. And so real quick on your background, you graduated high school. I'm not going to date you here at all, but 1969. Ulysses High School, right? And that's where your story begins. And I know a little bit more about your background. We'll get into that in a little bit. You graduated from Southwestern College with a degree in business administration. Mm-hmm. You then went on and you worked in Peabody, a corporation, as a staff accountant, and you continue to go forward. You continue to build as a CPA, and then you grew further, and you ended up in a position where you were a partner at a CPA firm, and you sold that in 1999. And then you became a consultant with special projects. A lot of what you do today in so many different verticals, it's unbelievable and it's amazing. You were a president of Southwest Bank and sold in 2003.
Yes. And
that's pretty cool. And I don't know if that's one of those 9-figure deals that we'll talk about later, maybe in some way. And I know you're humble about that, but that's pretty cool. And then present, you do consulting on special projects because of all your experiences that you've gotten on a finance background as a guy who really gets finance at the 0.1% of the 1%. Mm-hmm. You see things a lot differently than the average individual. Mm-hmm. And you've been a part of deals where it's so critical that every percentage point is it matters when you're doing those kind of deals. I mean, it can add up to a lot of money if you do something wrong. And I'll speak a little bit on my little deals that I do, and for you to be able to carry that and to have the reputation you have is unbelievable. So consulting special projects, collecting loans and loan retained by banks, executive community service projects, economic development in Western Kansas, bank debtor negotiations and workouts, business succession planning, business packaging, buy-sell negotiations and business purchases, project developments, project management, business startups and developments, on and on and on. And you are CEO, CFO of Great Plains Bioscience Group, LLC. Mm-hmm. And you carry a lot of hats in different places underneath that umbrella. Mm-hmm. And most of them are strongly in the finance area, of course. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of a thing here, right? You've seen a theme. 1,800 acres that you are partners or family-owned farm operations. And again, I can go on and on and on. And I don't want to not say the main stuff here, which is your community service. I don't know how many hours a week that you do that, but I can look at this list, and from the Chamber of Commerce to economic development in different parts of the region, regional economic development, Harvey County economic development, Rotary Club, and everything that organization does across the world. And you've got international business skills, and you've put that into practice. So this is just touching the tip of the iceberg of this man I got in front of me today, and one of our leaders. And one of the things I like to make a point of is leadership is people that are working, and leadership, I like to see leadership as action, right? And you do action. So for you to give me an hour and a half of your time is not taken lightly. But I'll tell you one of my most favorite things about you, you're just a dude, just like me. You know, we drink a beer together. We sit in your living room just like a normal person.
I do put the toilet seat down.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, I see you as a knuckle dragger. You're a get it done guy, and you're humble as heck. And I want to buy a truck like yours and drive that thing and just be happy that I'm doing all the right things and I'm putting my money in the right places and keeping myself humble by the things I do every day, by actions, not by talking and flaunting and all the things that we like to do today with the selfies. And so thank you for being here. And so I want to get into a little bit about what makes a guy like Rod Kreie, right? And so one of the favorite questions I like to ask people to get started, we call this the Mad Minute to warm us up, is, Rod, what is your favorite color?
Well, I'm not an artistic guy. I'm very numeric, but probably the favorite combination of colors that I've ever seen was a pickup that I owned in the early '90s. It was black with a brown sandstone metallic stripe along the side, and actually people would. When I drove by, not that I really noticed, but it would turn people's heads, you know. So,
yeah.
So my grandson's favorite color is blue. So I went several years and told everybody my favorite color was blue because that was his favorite color.
Nice.
So
is he the Spider-Man dude that kicks you in the face?
He's I posted a picture 7-8 years ago where he did a kind of a flying kick and pretty much finished me off.
I got to see that. That's a special moment there, and he'll remember that. For how old is he now, if you don't mind me asking?
He's 11.
Goes fast.
He's in 6th grade.
That's cool.
Now, yeah.
So what is your favorite sport?
Well, I'm an avid golfer. You know, I played college baseball, and I played a lot of racquetball when I was younger, but I like to watch baseball on TV. I like to watch golf on TV. So golf's probably the one that takes up most of my time.
The rumor is you got a shot, basketball.
Oh,
do you really have a shot?
Yeah, well, I was okay.
You were all right?
I was, yeah. I love to play basketball. I call it basket brawl.
Yeah.
Because we were
That's
pretty
how you
aggressive
do it.
the way we played. But yeah, I was a shooter.
Yeah. Well, that's one of the things. Basketball's my favorite sport. I love the game tremendously at deep levels. And who would ever thought I would ended up in Kansas after all that? And I don't think those are accidents. So real quick, are you a muscle car or a luxury sedan kind of guy?
Well, if I went to a car show, I'd look at the muscle cars, but I'd probably take my luxury car there.
Yeah.
To go look at the
cars. Look at the muscle cars.
I'm into comfortable travel. Some of the muscle cars can kind of beat you up.
Yeah.
A little bit. So.
Yeah, I have a buddy who has a really beautiful Cobra Mustang. It's like a 68, I think it is. It's fun to drive, but you don't want to go more than 15, 20 minutes at a time.
I had a 1956 Chevy that the interesting thing is, you know, they used to kind of hide where you put gas in. The tail light had a little thing you'd turn and pull down, and you'd fill it up there.
Nice.
And that was kind of cool. That was my high school car, you know. And back then, sadly, we didn't realize those cars were going to be valuable, so we couldn't wait to get a good car.
Yeah.
And now you look back at the
piece of gold
56 Chevy and you think, man.
Yeah, we're driving history now.
Should have kept that one.
Yeah. And I can't wait to get into the childhood and some of the things you would do, and that's going to be fun. But real quick, what is your, just to show some love to one of our local restaurants here, if you could, what is your go-to order at your favorite hometown restaurant? You might make some people mad given your position and some of the things you do.
I really am ashamed of myself. I would like to, not be as big as I am. And hopefully my wife won't see this, but I like sneaking off to Taco Tico.
Nice.
And their 2 tacos, I think it's their number 2, is 2 tacos and beef sancho with a drink.
Little stress reliever action in the middle of the day.
She still teaches during the day, so I figure this is her last year of teaching. Okay. So I have another semester and a half of being just totally out of control when it comes to Taco Tuesday.
Your Taco Tuesdays are Taco Tuesdays and Thursdays, maybe?
Well, yeah.
Something like that. All right. Shout out to Taco Tico. Is there a special place in Harvey County you enjoy and why?
Well, we spend a lot of time in our yard. I've got over 50,000 square feet of grass.
Yeah.
So, the cool thing about working outside is when we moved here 12 years ago, of course, we didn't know anybody, and now I know enough people that I get honks and people stop by and I'll get to visit with them.
Yeah.
So we enjoy spending time in our yard. I really liked it when I took the time to take the walking path down on Sand Creek. Mm-hmm. You'd bump into people you hadn't seen and meet new people and get a little bit of exercise. So that's probably my second.
That's cool.
Special place.
Yeah, I like Sand Creek too. All right. So I want to get into your city commission experience. I mean, we want to talk about your childhood and do some other things like that, but I want to really hit right away.
Okay.
Tell me about your experience being on the city commission, the responsibilities of that, what that looks like for you. And you've done other work before, so this wasn't like a fresh new thing for you. You're not one of those guys that we elected to come in and then had zero experience. Yeah. You actually have very extensive experience, and it would be so dangerous to me as our community if we don't understand the leaders we have in place today and the ability to craft and form a major league team for the next 20 years off of what we're getting now and to steward that and keep looking and replacing our current leaders with new leaders that are seasoned or at least are coached.
Sure.
So they're not getting up there as green as I would if I was in that position without the experience I don't have. And that would be actually dangerous. But in the system that we have today, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
Tell me about the city commission. What's that been like for you so far?
Well, I was a city councilman in Ulysses. Mm-hmm. And while I was there, obviously finances is a strength of mine, but also I've had enough other real life experiences that I was able there to lead us through a wetlands project where we were actually able to take affluent water and process it to the point to where we could put it into a lake out at the golf course and a lot of times the big issue, and I don't know if you listened to the city commission meeting last night, but we approved the city maintaining and assisting in any way we can with a group that's going to put a bird watching station at the wetlands part of the city's property, just this side of the sewage treatment plant that overflow water goes into that we can't get processed quick enough. Mm-hmm. And the lake water in Ulysses, where I was a councilman, we actually had such an intensity in the wetlands that we were able to clean that water up to the point to where we could put fish in it, and people could actually catch those fish. And I don't think it ever got to the point, and I haven't been there for 12 years, where the fish are edible. It's catch and release. But just the sum of all my experiences, you know, here in Newton, I have done city budgets before. I've audited cities before. I understand how their enterprise funds work, and I understand how all that stuff plugs into the big picture. And then you throw all them variables in there where you have equipment replacement policies and you know, even thinking far enough ahead where you're putting money back in case you need to replace a water line or something like that. Our staff there is really tuned into that too, and you know, it's pretty important that for example, right now the city of Burton, they're really good people over there. That's where my wife teaches, and they had to pass a bond issue just to repair the streets, so you didn't lose an entire car in one of their holes.
Wow. Over
there. And it's not that people have a lack of foresight. It's just that it's difficult to take all the areas that a city needs to be completely aware of, so that you minimize surprises. And all that stuff is wrapped up into a budget where it's really important that you have discipline when that happens, so that you can figure out a way to do things in a way that doesn't bust the budget, so that the mill levy goes, you know, buku and all that. Just last night, you know, the commissioners and city staff approved refinancing a debt that's going to save the taxpayers $173,000 a year in payments, and just right at $2.1 million in total interest. So there's so many facets that many times, especially single issue candidates, you know, run. They don't realize how hard it is when they get in there. They can't just fix one thing because it's hooked to everything else. It's just like it's like when you try to get a fish hook out of your bait box,
right,
or tackle box, and you just want one hook, and you can't get it out of there because it's hooked to everything else. You pull them all out, you know. So just the sum of my entire lifetime of doing things, you know, it just tunes me into how important it is to look at a great big picture rather than just try to solve one problem at a time. Is that too much of an answer?
No, that's not. It's perfect, because people need to understand the complexities. And I think that was a great analogy of pulling out that hook. And so, because I actually visually saw that in my head as you were telling me that. And it's perfect, because I'm learning some stuff myself on a certain group that I work with. And it is a lot more complex than, because there's different ways funding comes in for different things. Yeah. And so you might have funding for food here, and that's done this way. Then you might have funding for buildings here, and then you have funding for staffing here. And then what was done before, and who was managing it before, and who was managing it before that, and what are all their different flavors added into this thing, and when has it been discombobulated, or when have we had somebody to come in and take that tackle box and say, this is not going to be fun, but we're going to take some time to separate this out. And we're also going to take time to maybe see what this looks like in the future, so we can be more efficient in our actions. Yep. And every time you need a hook, you're not going to spend 30 minutes when you're at the lake ready to rock and roll. That's right. Because you actually took the time previous to do that. And people that have this mindset, I love, because I am not that guy, and I'm getting better, and I understand the value of it. But I also think I bring a different kind of value to a team. Yeah. But it's about the team realizing where people play ball.
That's true. It's really important that you have all kinds of talent.
That's right.
On there. And you know, I think being a disruptor is great. You know, I've been a disruptor myself.
Right.
But at some point in time, if that's all a person does is disrupt, then if you can't ever build consensus and collaborate in a way that together their best skill, whatever it is, adds to the sum of the whole,
right?
Then all they are is a disruptor,
right?
And sadly, those people seldom accomplish anything because, at some point in time, you have to sit down at the table and figure out how to move things forward. Because if you're just disrupting, then, I blame. I know that's a strong word. I don't blame, but if you look at past city commissions, there's some really great people on there, and it only takes one person whose intent is to disrupt, and it just makes it 200% harder for the people that understand to get things done.
Right, and the dynamics that are and the things that I'm learning, and I'm still learning. But I really enjoy it because I know about team. I was blessed to be in a position in fourth grade to be captain of my basketball team, very first team I ever had. And I never took that lightly from that day forward, what that meant. And I will say that it was for the wrong reasons for a long time. Because I was young and I thought it was cool and I worked for it for the wrong reasons. And I think that's another thing is when you go into something with an intention and only an intention and you're not able to see the bigger picture, like we all have things we want to do and accomplish, right? That's why we do what we do. But when it overrides the greater good of the whole, that's when it becomes a problem. And I also see these people that want to whack-a-mole every single issue with no real substance or no real action towards the issue. And they become very ineffective because all they do is talk and scream and shout. But they never get past the second layer of the scratch. They never lift the Band-Aid and really look underneath to see what the damage is.
They've lost when people quit listening to them.
Right.
It's important you maintain your credibility, and when they're just whacking the first thing that comes up and just keep whacking away, I mean, eventually you go watch something else and do something else.
Right. And to the trained eye, when you hear language and you watch people like yourself that I watch for a reason and I listen to and I watch people operate and everybody's at different levels. But they're the great ones that I see, the men and women out there that are doing great things. They're very intentional about what they're doing. And the way they speak is very specific, and you can't be loose with your words around the right people if you're really trying to do something because they'll smell it. And they figure it out quick. And there's little telltale things when you talk about numbers and you talk about these grandiose stage talk things that you do and you use, but you never really drill down to the details. And you're so loose in how you're using that language. You've done it so many times with people that aren't going to question you because people do see titles and they do put you in a box. Which, my first business card is head janitor, right? And there's reasons for that. It's like and I notice you're not a title guy. I look at this and it's like, you're Rod Kreie. You're a community servant. Business doesn't really come out of your mouth unless somebody brings it up to you. And even then you snuff it off pretty quick and then you look at this stuff and you're like, geez, man, we have a champion on our city commission. So thank you for the service. Thank you for everything you're doing.
You're welcome.
Thank you for being a straight shooter from a guy who's not very trusting because I've been jacked and put over knees and spanked and have made so many mistakes in myself. It's not about everybody else. It's about me making bad decisions for me. And so I look at the world and I'm getting better, but I look at the world in a way that's kind of pessimistic in some way, even though people think I'm pretty positive because I've lost six figures many times over in different deals. And you're a guy that I literally can say I trust. And when you put out numbers, I bet that if I came to you, you'd unpack them for me. And I can trust that it was done at a high level. And that's hard to find today. It's hard to find in our communities. It's hard to find in leadership roles. And in a town like this, when we have access to that type of leadership, it's very rare. So I want to say that personally, I'm on your team. Even if we disagree, I know what we have, and I hope you choose to keep serving us for a while because we've got a lot of years of work ahead of us, and I hope that we're together on that.
Well, one thing I want to comment on what you just said, probably one of the most important things you can do as a leader is to empower the people you're working with and then get out of their way. the one thing that fascinated me about current city staff is I went in. I never go into a situation like that with an axe to grind. There was things that, I had a little run-in with a tree guy, at my house, and it wasn't pleasant, but he was only doing his job, and so when I was asked to be a commissioner by the process, there was 11 of us that went in there, and I might point out they selected me over Clint.
McBoom.
Who's really a dear friend of mine. I totally love. But the one thing I've learned in everything that I've done is if you want your talents to survive, you leaving, then the greatest gift you can give is to get out of the way.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You don't have that Superman effect is what I'm still working on.
We have really a talented staff at City Hall, and there'd be nothing greater than them not needing me anymore because I knew they were doing such a great job, and they're there.
That's awesome. Yeah. Real quick, for our buddy,
I even like the tree
McBoom.
Yeah. Mr. McBoom.
McBoom.
Yeah.
I'm glad they picked Rod over you, but he's a great guy. He's up and coming, and the fact that he has leadership to learn from and to get those details figured out as he's growing and learning.
He's hungry and he's
a doer.
Good for the world, and what better? Rich is the same way. Rich has got a lot of really serious skills.
Yeah, that's awesome.
He's so financially savvy too, and then Leroy's just a great leader.
Yeah.
And, I've never seen anybody care like Kathy does. Kathy's just, she just plugs away. She reads all the fine print, and she asks those questions. And the combination of all of us, I've been on things before where you spent more time, fixing yourself than you do fixing your community.
Roger that.
And it's really refreshing that we're spending time fixing the community now.
Well, yes, and we're getting deeper into that, which is fun. We're building bridges, and I will say the last time I walked into the city, I had a meeting there a couple Fridays ago with one of your teammates, and it was a different feel.
Yeah.
And that means a lot to a lot of people.
When you get out of their way and they know you support them, then that's when it's fun.
And it's cool to see our community protecting that for once and not attacking.
Yeah.
We have pockets of people protecting the vision.
Yes.
And it's starting to form, and that's a beautiful thing.
Well, it's more important than people realize.
Yeah.
In the realm of economic development, a community that's getting along and understands the vision. Maybe we don't do as good a job. I mean, we're just right in we're probably 2/3 of the way through, setting things in stone that we've been planning for a long time. When I got on there was no long range plan. It was like, what are we going to do next year? And that, the staff very quietly, they had their equipment replacement schedules, and they'd put a lot of things in motion, but without having complete stability like they have now, they just, it probably wasn't fun for them. I would say we're really having fun.
Yeah.
Right now.
That's great.
When you have fun and get things done, it really doesn't get any better than that.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, man. Okay. So, let's get into your, childhood here. Okay. Who were you as a child, and what did that look like? Tell me about little Rod.
Oh, I was definitely a leader. As a kid, I didn't really understand it. I was blessed with having a dad that was very popular. He was Mr. Little League. And, that's where my love of baseball came from. And he was district administrator for Little League for 35 or 40 years. And that kind of was his life. When he passed, there was just lots of people at his funeral, and we sang "Take Me Out to the Ball Game" when we left the church, and his life really impacted me. I was the kid that hated to see people bullied. Kind of had to deal with my grade school principal. I got caught fighting 3 or 4 times because if people can't defend themselves, I just couldn't even stand it as a 3rd grader.
Yeah,
to see some kid get hammered by some jackweed that just totally was going to dominate some little shrimpy person. So I was real apt to jump in there and defend him. So the principal he'd kind of say, hey, you really shouldn't fight at school, but I appreciate you, protecting whoever.
He got it.
Yeah, I had a really happy life, We were poor, I had 3 other brothers and a sister, and my dad drove a gas truck for fuel delivery service, the standard fuel delivery service, and we lived in a 2-bedroom home. There was 4 boys in a bedroom with 2 bunk beds, and my sister lived in a little walled off area of the living room.
Mm-hmm.
And but that's the way everything was back then. I didn't feel like we were. There was no moping around wishing we had stuff.
Yeah.
We always had tennis shoes and baseball gloves. So
yeah.
It was what it was, and it wasn't painful. It wasn't impactful. It didn't hold me back. I became a little entrepreneur. When I was a kid, I'd go over to my doctor's son's house, and they'd have stuff, and I thought, I don't know how old I was, maybe 5th grade before I had a charcoal hamburger, on open coals. And so I was a real goal setter back then. I was willing to work. When I was 6 years old, I call it my first little company. I'd knock on doors and pull dandelions for a penny a piece, and people quickly found out how expensive that could be. So I had to learn to negotiate for what was mine, even as a little kid. But never have been afraid to work. I roofed my way through college. I put on T-locks and 3-tab shingles on houses, and started off working for another guy. Then I started my own little company, and through college I learned how to pour concrete, and still do a lot of my own little concrete jobs. I've laid brick, and
nice.
And even recently, you get a certain age and you realize you shouldn't do things. But our Rotary Club built an outdoor classroom in Burton, Kansas, and it's like a 24 by 24 structure. It really ended up good. If you're ever over there, you should stop by and look at it. But a lot of concrete to be poured, and retaining walls and inlaid brick, and it turned out really well. And I did most of the work on that. So and last time I looked, it was still standing. It's been a couple of years. So you're always impressed when you drive by some of the things you built, and I built Butler buildings and grain bins over the summertime, some too, as part of the concrete stuff. And so when I go back to Western Kansas, I'll drive by things that I built in the 70s, and shouldn't be surprised that they're still standing. But sometimes you think, wow, that's, did I really know what I was doing back then? But I had a good life. Played a lot of baseball, a lot of pickup basketball games, and we played tackle a man with a football. I don't know if you did that. 75 kids. We
called it a different deal. I don't know if it's politically correct to call it what we called it, but
probably not.
No,
today's world, Andy.
we'll talk about that when we get off camera. Yeah. But that's cool. So that sounds like it's everything I know about you, because we've had these conversations in part. So it's cool for the public to get to see that. And what was your dad's name?
His name was Dick. Richard Dale Kreie.
Yeah. Richard Dale Kreie.
Yeah, and the baseball complex back home.
That's really cool.
Is named after him.
I saw a blurb on that, so that's really cool that his name is there and living on, and he spent a lot of hours, it sounds like, not only with you, but many other people.
Yeah, he did.
Coaching and teaching and pouring back in. So those are amazing stories, and those are the champions in our lives that we got to keep that legacy moving, don't we? It's a big responsibility. They're giants, that's for sure. So getting out of high school or growing up as a kid, getting into high school, and you didn't like bullies, it sounds like. So you were always
I still don't like bullies.
Yeah. Will you still fight?
If I had to.
If you had to think about it, that's a good sign.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be able to help yourself.
Who knows, It just depends. I'd be more apt to trip a runaway, Someone stealing someone's purse.
There you go.
I would have a hard time seeing somebody get beat up and just stand there.
Yeah.
That's just...
Not in your genes.
No, I don't know why.
I'm the same way. I don't think that's a bad thing.
Yep.
So tell me about going into college. It sounds like you're pretty successful academically, not only as an entrepreneur, which it's hard for a guy like me. I did what I had to academically, but I had the entrepreneur gene, I think. I'm still developing it, but I didn't know what it was, that little motor thing. And as you got older, college, you were pretty successful, and did you get right into numbers right away? Like, did you understand that's what you wanted?
I started off thinking I wanted to have a degree in psychology.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, I think if I look back, probably a couple more classes and I could have had a double major. They didn't have an accounting degree at Southwestern when I was there, but they had what's called a business administration degree with an emphasis in accounting, and that's what I received. And
you did win an award there.
Yeah.
You were like on the front page of a magazine, and it was they were speaking about a company, a 9-figure company that you were a part of that you had sold, I think.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Yeah.
I thought the award. I'm in their Business Hall of Fame, which was, I don't know how you do that. I mean, I didn't ask.
That's how you do it.
Yeah, I didn't ask to be. I was on their board for 12 years and in charge of their finance and investment committee for several of those. So I'm proud. I did a lot of good work for Southwestern College when I was on their board, and still good friends with just tons of people.
Yeah.
That are mound builders.
Yeah. So as you go through that, I mean...
But Bethel people don't hold that against me.
Yeah, we're all over the place. One sitting right across from you. At Southwest, did you start serving? Were you volunteering? Because I know I started getting involved in volunteer projects at Bethel.
Yeah.
Did you start from that point forward, that volunteer gene that you have?
Oh, I was real active in our fraternity life, and
you
not
volunteered at the
way.
keggers.
Yeah. Keg stands. I'd hold their feet.
There you go.
But I can't say I did a lot of service work. My goal was to get through college and not owe anything. So I really was blessed with. I was blessed with a hailstorm in Ulysses in one of the years, and I literally about worked myself to death replacing roofs after a hailstorm, and that got me way ahead. And I actually graduated from Southwestern. My parents didn't have the money to help me,
right?
Yeah, and I knew, but they supported me, emotionally, and they were proud. I'm the only kid in my family that graduated from college,
right?
And I did graduate without owing anything. So that was a kind of a happy goal that I reached.
And that's a quick one.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a big goal quick.
That is, it was big.
Yeah.
So I want to do that for my kids too. They all made it through school without owing any.
That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. People need, back then it didn't seem as hard to get into a groove that was going to lead you somewhere, and today the world seems much more complicated.
Yeah, here's a political thing. We'll maybe spend 5 minutes on it. I'm curious to see, and if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine. Mm-hmm. But from my goggles, you look at the rate of people that start college and finish, and it's not as big as people think. It's actually very small. Now, it's a lot bigger now because people can do online stuff. It's a little bit less of a pop in the marketplace because of how they've made the systems. It's different.
Sure.
So, they talk about free college and these things, and we both know that things aren't free. So it comes down to this: are we willing to adjust systems and sacrifice what we're going to have to sacrifice to give those opportunities and make those opportunities available as a society? Right?
Yeah.
Let's have that conversation. Okay, because it's not free. Yeah. So, are we willing to invest in the things we need to, the way to make that happen? And I just feel like, and my grandfather was a big advocate of this one. Great man. Gosh, he was so wise. I wish I knew that sooner. If you don't work for something, you're not going to appreciate it.
Yeah.
And I just fear that even people going to college that pay $20,000 to $30,000, they are so flippant with that opportunity.
Yeah.
And many of them don't graduate and owe all of this money, but they ride it at prices as long as they can, because it really does feel good in society to say I'm going to college, and that's kind of a capper to I'm really playing video games and I got this part-time job, but nobody's going to mess with me for about 4 years because I'm going to college. I mean, I know that's generalizing, but that happens a lot more than I think we want to just be honest about.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know several kiddos right now that are in my life that I care about that are in that situation.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, geez, man, you're going to college and that makes everything else okay. We got to grow up, right? And if we provide that to millions of people, and I feel like we just giving excuses away to really get things going. And so this is the world that I'm looking at right now for my kids, right? When my kids come through, is investing in college for free going to be a thing for them and their friends? And I just think that sets a bad precedent to not teaching people to go after what you want, put in the work, and have some investment in it, have some skin in the game. Yeah. How do you see that?
I see it the same way you do. I mean, I take a look at my kids and even though they graduated without any student debt, I didn't give them any money to spend while they were there. If they wanted to do something, they had to have a job.
That's right.
And somehow, it's weird being a parent. You don't really realize that you did something right or did something wrong. Sometimes it's too late to realize you did something wrong. But, by the grace of God, somehow our kids seem to get it. I have 3 girls. The oldest one's 38 years old, 37 years old. And
she's my age.
Then I've got a 35-year-old and a 31-year-old. And I don't know, when you're a parent, you don't sit there and say, well, this is what we're going to do now. So we show them how. I mean, I think the best gift you can give your kids is to lead by example, and let them make a few mistakes along the way. And in our case with them in college, by the time they got there, somehow or another, they seemed to have the skills. It's not like we read a book and followed it, step 1 through step 128 or 1594 or whatever. But they knew what to do, and they knew what was important, and they understood that an education was going to get them somewhere. The oldest daughter got a business administration degree and went to work for private industry for a period of time, and just hated it. She was a human resources person, and finally woke up to the fact that she loves working with people enough that she's an RN. Now, she went back to school, and she actually graduated from nursing school and got the award of the out of a couple hundred nursing students at the time that for being potentially the nicest, most compassionate caregiver out of all those people. So, that's pretty proud.
That's who she is.
Yeah. The middle one's an engineer. She worked on the Boeing Dreamliner. Spent a lot of time in flight flying over. She flew over all 48 continuous states in one day, one time, running tests before that plane was deemed airworthy to put passengers into. She's a software engineer.
Yeah.
She with a group of people wrote the code that allows that plane to do automated landing.
Wow.
Which, it's way over my head. And she left Boeing and now is a software engineer for a company that does communication between cancer patients, their doctors, their support people. It's an all-inclusive, vigorous treatment, emotional support system. It's a startup in Seattle. She lives in Seattle. The oldest daughter's in New York City. She's a RN at New York University Hospital. And amazingly enough, when she applied for the job that she currently has, she was interviewing against 2 other nurses from Ivy League schools. And I've never heard of them doing this before, but they interviewed in front of each other, all 3 nurses sitting there, and her background was in human resources.
Yeah.
And she got to go last. And, being a human resources person, she knew the right things to say and
Teed it up, baby.
The little old girl from small nursing school on the east side of Kansas City ended up getting the job over the other 2 because they were looking for compassionate care. They weren't looking for somebody that had a 4.0, which she also had.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think if you just gave kids an education, they didn't have to work for it. There's just nothing good that can come from that. Probably one of the most proud things that I've done is to walk away from Southwestern College with no money in my pocket, but no debt.
You set a precedent for yourself.
And I think it just means more to me, Andy.
Yeah.
If you could, it's just like if you go to university and don't even really know what you want to do, or don't have a focus, or don't have something that drives you, then you're just never going to know where you're going. It'll be over, and you'll still be wondering because it didn't cost you anything. So yeah. I totally agree with you.
Yeah. Well, real quick, I just want to talk to you about your business experience. We've talked a little bit about it, but I want to hear about where you're at now, what you're interested in now. Where are you going? What's this season for Rod look like in business?
Yeah. Well, I'm 65, and just really considering winding things down. I'm just coming off of a 5-year project that's kind of got me worn out.
Yeah,
and lots of travel, and it's a real interesting project. It has some privacy things that are pretty cool about it. It's probably the coolest project I've done, but it's definitely been the most intense project that I've done. I've got to be around some really cool people that have been involved in various things that they can't talk about because of their security clearances and things like that. It's helped me understand really, how important it is national security wise that we have groups that help keep us safe. And there's a little bit of element of that in what we're doing. It's about freight movement and tracking freight, and knowing when things aren't, knowing when things are deviate from the path that they originally started on.
Right.
So that's, while it's been really exciting and interesting to be involved in something like that, it's made me realize that I'm older than I used to be, and I'm much more apt in the future to, part of what we've done in the past is to help others succeed. I've been really good at that in my lifetime and career. I mean, as a CPA, that's all you do. You got a farmer that comes in, he's having some troubles. You help him with his cash flow, and you help him monitor his cash flow. You help him get financing. You look at different crop situations that might better serve him.
Yeah.
I've always really acted, even in everything we've done in Great Plains Biosciences Group, is more of a support guy rather than starting a project on our own and taking it to the very end. We've had this desire to do what we call an agriplex for years and years and years, and really have been too busy to pursue that. And it's just a circle of industry. Usually you plug in something that's a problem somewhere, perhaps hog or cattle waste, and that's the beginning of a process where you plug in other things that, like hydroponics or aquaponics. It's a circle of industries where you plug everything in, and in one waste stream actually feeds into another revenue stream. And we've looked at maybe 10 or 12 of those at different places. It's really hard to get that financed. And when you start layering projects on, it's like having maybe 8 or 10 companies just hooked together, and the price of a project may go from 70 million to 1.3 billion. And,
right.
And when you get into those numbers, then your window of who might be able to finance that is diminished. So that's still probably our fantasy project.
Yeah.
But from that, we've learned how to help other people with projects that they have, perhaps taking a technology that we're familiar with and hooking it with something that they're trying to do, which makes both processes work better. It's like the sum of the parts is a lot more valuable than each part individually. And so we do a lot of that type of consulting work for various things.
Yeah, yeah. And how big is that team, if you don't mind me asking?
Oh, I don't even know, Andy.
Yeah.
We have these agreements with people that own technology that license it to us and our deal normally is if we use your stuff, then you either get a royalty or you take part of the project.
Yeah.
And last count, it was over a couple hundred. There's a lot of really smart people out there that are incapable of making a good deal. And I'd like to think that because of the way I've led my life, I'm trustworthy enough that I've been able to talk to a lot of those people, and they're not afraid I'm going to steal something from them, because most techie people that have inventions, that's the number one thing that holds them back, is their fear that people are going to steal their stuff, because it happens.
Yeah, it does.
It happens a lot.
A lot.
So anyway, that's, in a nutshell, I guess that's.
So one of the things I want to end with on that, and I know we can go on about the business stuff, and I'm looking forward to continuing those conversations when we make time with each other to do that stuff. But your family, just your wife is meekful. She's doesn't say a whole bunch when we're together. Yeah. I don't know her real well, but she usually she's a listener and a watcher.
Yeah.
Are you okay with telling us a little bit about her?
Oh, sure. She's, she teaches family and consumer science over at Burton.
Yeah.
And her desire to help people and make the world a better place is every bit as intense as mine. She just does it through a different method. You know, it used to be home ec, you know, back in the day, and it's not about cooking and sewing anymore. It's about life skills and you know, continue to be amazed at some of the stories she tells me about kids, and it's really hurtful to take a look at some of them kids' lives and realize that you know, I never felt poor when we were growing up, but I mean they just don't have it very good. You know, dad's in prison, or you know, mom's had multiple boyfriends, and the stability in the household isn't very good, and those kids seem to latch on to her. So, you know, it gives her purpose.
Absolutely. And she seems like a servant leader herself, the way she is, and she doesn't. She's a lot like you. She doesn't like to go for the limelight. She just wants to be in the background getting it done, and that's.
She's very musical.
Cool. Is she?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
We have a music room.
Okay.
In the house, and she plays the piano.
Yeah.
She plays the flute. She was the church organist at Ulysses at our Methodist church for over 20 years.
Yeah. So as we get through this, if there's a young guy or gal watching this, and you can give a piece of advice, is there anything you want to leave out there? If maybe even for our city, for our teams that we're building, our community as a whole. Any special message you have for us?
Oh, just off the top of my head, I said, make sure your time takes you somewhere. You know, I mean, I work hard, I play hard, and you know, I'm 65 years old, and I keep talking about, you know, like with COVID, you know, we got to take care of the old people, and then it suddenly occurs to me, you know, that I'm in that category now, and still every day when I get up, you know, I mean, I start thinking about, you know, like I'll have a busy day and I want it to take me somewhere, you know, like today I'm going to sit in on a over the lunch hour a study that some people have done on the effects on social behavior patterns and other things social of what marijuana's done to Colorado. Well, do I need to take the time to do that? You know, and is that really relevant here? Well, you know, I don't know how many times that I've attended something or done something that I thought, well, I wonder if I should do this, where my come away was, you know, something that I know I'm going to use at some point in time in the future. So I would say, you know, make every day count, you know, but go have some fun.
That's right.
And, you know, don't just cruise through life. You know, be productive and be appreciative of people. I grew up with heroes and really looked up to a lot of people. I mean, I can remember watching Hadley Hall play basketball and how much of a leader he was, and was just in awe of the aura, you know, of his obvious skill in basketball and how unselfish he was, because, you know, he could take the 15-foot jump shot, or he could pass it to the guy that came off of a screen inside, and he always passed it to the guy that came off the screen inside. And somehow or another, it just seems to me that it's harder to find focus than it was back then. The heroes don't seem as important to kids as it was to me back then. And I know we're in the age of technology where you could spend your whole day playing video games, and at the end of the day, what have you done? You may have the highest score that you put your initials on whatever game that you're playing, but how's that going to help the world? So, if we had everybody that just did something every day for someone else, there just wouldn't be room for patting everybody on the back and tell them they're doing a good job, because you just wouldn't know who to do that to.
That's a beautiful thing, and thank you for sharing that. I took so much from this, and I'm looking forward to going over it and listening some more. And I know our viewers will enjoy knowing who you are and seeing what your character is. And I think you just nailed it right there. I mean, it will come out through the whole interview. Your love for family, your connection with your wife, and your servant attitudes together, and how you do what you do in this community and for life in the world in general. And I know there's a lot of things you do on a bigger scale that we didn't talk about. We're not going to, because that's not who you are. Yeah. But that was the piece.
Okay.
It's a champion, watching a champion and understanding his selflessness while he's in action. And it's the hero of doing the thing to serve, not the shoulder shakes and the flingy cars and the big. And that's who you are, Rod. You're that guy who sees those actions, and you will continue to build and mold that for the rest of who you are, because your dad placed those things in you, and you're now carrying those out into the world. And guys like me that need those men and those heroes are looking at you, and we are getting it. Please keep doing what you do. Thank you for being a servant leader. Thank you for serving our community, and thank you for being my friend.
You're welcome.
And I appreciate you so much, man. I'm looking forward to doing great things together.
Okay.
Rod, episode 23, Harvey County Digital with Rod Kreie. We're out, man.